All right, welcome everybody. This is an IGA student-led class on how to make pixel art, and Genevieve will be leading it. Over to you.
Okay. Has anybody used Aseprite or done pixel art at all before?
Yes.
Okay, you've used Aseprite specifically?
I have not used Aseprite.
Okay, what about you, Andy?
No, but I'm very curious about why someone would use it over, Photoshop or Krita
Okay,
or whatever the
great.
popular tools are. Yeah.
And John, are you there, John? I don't know if you're there. He might have logged on. And
Yes,
have you used Aseprite before?
not really.
Okay, great. This is great because I love it when they're all beginners, because then you won't get bored when I start showing you, all the basics, because that's what I'm doing is I'm starting from the beginning and assuming you don't know anything, and then you can ask questions, break in anytime you want. Okay, let me move my video screen so that I can focus on my so Aseprite, you buy it through Steam. So if I want to use Aseprite, I open up Steam and I say play Aseprite, which is funny. So can everyone see my gray screen here?
Whoa, that's a lot of stuff on the screen when you open.
Okay, this is it's all showing me recent files and stuff, so you can ignore all of this. The most important thing is we're going to go to File. This is going to be really familiar to you. It's going to be just like Photoshop or anything else. You do new. I'm going to do 64 by 64. I'm going to do RGB. I want a transparent background, and that's it. And I'm just going to go here. So this is really similar. If you've done even Microsoft Paint, you're going to feel pretty comfortable. And if you've used Photoshop, it uses a lot of the same shortcuts. So it's a lot easier. How do you hide your screen sharing thing? Does anyone know? I don't know how to hide this.
I don't think you can hide it, but you can actually drag it around.
Go to
and move
view
it.
options.
Oh, there we go. There we go. That's perfect.
View options, hide video panel.
Okay, this is fine actually, because I just moved it to the side. I didn't know I could move it. Okay, so the one thing you want to keep in mind is everything has shortcuts. So it's really about writing down and memorizing your shortcuts when you're using Aseprite. And the other thing that you probably want to do when you set up your workplace is set up a preview. So it's F7. So what this does is it just gives me a little preview. So when you're working on something, you don't have to constantly zoom in or out. And then also you can see it small. So this is just like number one, what you want to do. I'm going to show you a few other things first. So this, David and I were part of a game jam like 4 or 5 months ago, where we made a little pixel art game. And I had an opening video. So the video, it just plays it evenly. When we put it in Unity, we changed it. But see, it's pretty complicated. There's a background that stays the same. There's a slime, there's a knight, and then it'll just repeat itself. Now, there's a couple ways. I just want to show you that this is what it looks like with all the panels here and the 2 layers, because I have my background a separate layer. But you can't export it like this. When you export it, it does this. Can you all see how it exports it into one giant sprite sheet. So then you can import it to Unity and it'll create an animation. And if you guys are interested, I'll show you how to export stuff to Unity and drag an animation in, just to kind of get an idea of that if you want to at the end. But that's a whole other class if you want to learn how to animate. Here's a sprite sheet of a little idle knight. And here is him this is kind of what he looks like. In Unity, you can slow him down and stuff, but here it's just idle. But then when you look at it, here's like one of the idols that's all in the spreadsheet ready to go. Also, this is great for repeating tiles. So this is actually showing 8 tiles. I've got it, or 9 tiles. I've got it selected on tiled mode. So if you do none, this is the 1 tile, but then it's great. And I'll go through all this. I'm just trying to give you a show so that if you make a change to it, it'll show you how it'll show up. Like if I'm like, oh, I want to make that thicker and that thicker.
Why is that one like flickering and like little pieces of it are moving in and out?
Well, what's happening is because it's showing 9 tiles at once, it's showing my cursor here. So if I change color, you'll see it better. So see how there's just 1 dot? It's showing you in a mirrored tile, like if you're going to tile them together, when really all you're doing is working on this. And so I come in and do
Gotcha.
this.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is just the amazing thing. I'm just trying to show you the overview of what Aseprite does. Like Photoshop does not do this. You have to do some extra work in Photoshop to get to see what the tile looks like. This one, again, I'll show you how to export that or import it to Unity if you want, but this is like my idle slime, my cube, gelatinous cube. That's what it looked like. So now we're back to this sheet. So it's really quite simple. The neat thing about this is you don't need fancy tools. I do use a drawing tablet. You can't see it because my video is too small, but I'll show you later. I do use a drawing tablet, but you can do, it's really easy to do pixel art with a mouse because you're not having to do fine drawings. You can come in and change it. So this is the really cool thing about pixel art is that you can use a mouse, and it's not like Photoshop where if you don't have a tablet, it's incredibly hard to draw. So up here, you've got your palette. You can come down here and change palettes. You can load lots of different palettes. You can expand and add colors. Just to give you a little overview here. The big thing is about knowing your shortcuts, because if you see over here, this tile bar all on the right, you've got, it looks a lot like Photoshop. You've got your marquee tool, you've got your pencil tool, your eraser. It is so tedious and a huge waste of time to go back and forth. So you need to know that B is your brush or your pencil, and then you can just go straight to E to erase. And then B, and then that's the V marquee. But the big thing is you want to be able to learn all your different shortcuts, because then it's just going to make life so much faster. Because if you're actually seriously doing pixel art, you're going to have to work fast because you cannot waste time. Like if you waste 1.5 seconds to go over here, you'll literally be wasting an hour a day of your work day if you're doing a full day of pixel art, just trying to get to your shortcuts. So I'm actually going to pull out my tablet. So let's choose this. And then we're on brush mode. So it's really easy to draw shapes. You can come in and draw shapes. I'm going to use G, and then that fills it in. That's my paint bucket tool. And these are the exact same shortcuts on Photoshop. So it's like really nice that they just copied Photoshop, because if they didn't, you'd be in big trouble. So to navigate your brush, every time you have one of these tools selected, whether it's eraser or brush or eyedropper or whatever, up here is going to be what's going on with it. This is where you pick your side. You can slide it what size you want. So it's once you get used to it, it's pretty intuitive. A lot of pixel artists like to use Pixel Perfect. And what Pixel Perfect does is it gives you, see how there's no overlapping pixels at all? In true quote unquote pixel art, you don't really want to have overlapping. Like if you have a border like this, you don't want to have like that. Does that make sense? Can everyone see that? I don't like to use Pixel Perfect actually, because I like to come in and rough things out when I'm working with it. And the big thing that I recommend with pixel art is don't get fixated on the pixels right away. Start working on your big shapes. Hold on. Edit. Why isn't it working? There we go. That's going to take all this out. Okay, so if you're drawing an image, the best thing to do is to come in and be like, well, I'm going to draw a character, and it's going to look sort of like this, and it's going to have 2 legs, so that you can really start coming in. Because if you just automatically start, this is a problem with a lot of people. Like we were talking about drawing hands before we get started. If you just go in straight, you're like, I'm going to draw the detail of the hand. You got to come in and like draw your character first. Maybe that's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or something. I don't know what that is. But so you can start using this, and then you can come in and pick your different colors and start coming in and moving it. That's just how you're going to use this. Again, coming over here to your tools, going back to it, V is a move tool. So this is really important. I press V and then I can adjust this and move it around. So say I duplicate this and I want to do animation, I can press V and then I can move it up like if it's an idle. So there's lots of little shortcuts that you don't have to draw everything by hand and keep fussing about it. Another big important one is this is different than Photoshop. Instead of using I, you use Alt, and that gives you your eyedropper. So if you want to use this color, let me turn it off, go to brush. If I want to use this color, then I can come here. If I want to, oops, why is that not working? There we go. If I want to use black again and come in here and do this, and then I'm like, oh, I screwed that up. I want to use that color. It's really easy to come in and start messing with your colors. You don't have to go over here. One nice trick is that you can actually make a little palette on another layer or on one of your layers, it doesn't matter. And then when you're working, you can just press Alt and you can say, oh, I need some purple. Oh, wait, I need to go back to gray. So you can really come in here and see how I'm like all just in this area. I'm not having to go over here. I'm not having to go over here. This is really the key to using it. Any questions so far?
I'm sure like every artist knows that palette trick, but for me, that's like blows my mind and it's awesome.
I know the first time I learned it, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't think of this, invent it on my own.
Worth the
Oh
price.
yeah, so there are like some character editor or like voxel creator. They have like a strict palette to work with.
Yeah, and you can make palettes. You can import palettes. You can make your own presets. So here, if I click on presets, look at all of these. This will give you the classic Atari 2600. You can like Commodore, you know, if you really want to go old school, like, because a lot of people who are doing pixel art try and make it, you know, look like you only had limited colors, you know, or NES. So if you're really trying to recreate that, or you can just come in and like that's 64. The Google UI open folder. I think, oops, I think I can just click on it. There we go. So here's the Google UI or whatever. So this will give you a lot more colors, or you can come down here and do color picker. But usually, honestly, if you're making a game, you're going to have an art director or designer or artist that's going to pick out your color palette. So even if someone else is doing the art, a character artist or the designer will have already selected the palette and they'll come in and say, here's the character I drew. These are the colors you're going to use. Or you're going to be the game designer and you're going to be like, these are the colors we're going to use. And then you can select a palette and then you can give everybody on your team that palette and say, these are the colors we're using, for example. Because a lot of times, you know, less colors is going to be less memory, but then also it's a more refined look if you have a set palette that everyone is working from. So it's not, doesn't get messy. Any other questions? Okay. So yeah, so just getting to know all your little different, how everything is laid out and getting to know. And usually if you hover over things, it'll tell you eyedropper is I. So if you press I, if you zoom tool, Z is nice. If you use Z, then you can use your the roller ball on the middle scroll on your mouse. So I don't even think you need the Z. Oh yeah, you do to get to it. Then you can go like this. So that's really nice. But I think I can just do it. If you have the middle scroller on your mouse, it's cool. Also, if you press down the middle scroller, you can drag it. So if I can zoom in, if I'm doing detail work, and then I can drag it over. Sometimes you might be working on a big landscape tile or something, and you want to, this is kind of hideous looking. Let me just go boop, boop, boop. And so now I'm just got I used my eyedropper to grab the black, and then I just used my paint bucket, and then I just filled in all the different areas. So it's really easy. Our weird little friend is gone. Okay, so there's a couple more little things I want to talk about workflow. There are so many things on this that I still don't even know. Like the cool thing about Aseprite is it is actually invented for pixel art. Like Photoshop tries to do a million things and you have to get rid of a lot of things and you have to really make your workstation pixel art friendly, versus this was right off the bat, it's meant for pixel art. So there's they're adding to it constantly. They're really worked hard on updating it a lot and adding new features. So it's really nice that it's not just a static tool, but they're always trying to do stuff. But I showed you the preview window. It's really nice to have this preview window just so you can always see it. And I showed you tile mode, like if we wanted to go We could show this in tiled mode. That's like if we wanted to make a repeating. That, Andy, might be a little better to see what's going on. Like if I grab an orange now, that orange that you see as a flickering dot is actually just one, but it's repeated all over. But let's get rid of that because we're not trying to do tiled mode here. But tiled mode is important if you're doing like tile sets. One cool thing is you can do Shift O and it'll outline things. So outlining is like a huge thing. Like if you have this black filled in character and you want it to be highlighted, and so to make it pop on the screen, this automatic outline color is like a godsend, because it's just totally tedious work to go outline this exactly and make it perfect. Whereas now you can come in and you can be like, no, I want that purple, or I want that green.
You just blew my mind. That's an incredible tool.
Isn't that like amazing? Like I think Aseprite is only like $17 or $15. It's like, it's worth its weight in gold. It's the best. Just that tool alone, could save me 15-20 minutes at least. That it would have
The
taken
amount
me.
of time I've spent outlining things manually, Lord.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And then if you want the arm separate, you'll just do the arm on a different layer, which I'll get to in a second, because that's a whole extra wonderful
Oh
thing
wait,
about this.
there's actually a tool that does automatic outlines.
Yeah, I just press Shift O, and now I can do another outline. Like I can keep doing this over and over, and I can do Shift O again, and I just made another outline. Like it'll keep outlining it. Like it's amazing. Just look how much cooler that looks without me actually doing any work myself. So Shift O is your best friend, and especially with pixel art characters, because you need them to pop. Just a couple quick tricks. If you are doing characters or pixel art, try and save black and white for your main characters or your main pixel sprites, because then it's going to make them pop. So if you have something in the background that needs to be white, make it a little more off-white, and save the white and the black to make the characters punch out. That's just one little design trick. So yeah, Shift O is like the most magical thing, and it's my favorite feature. Let's see, also Tab will hide your timeline. So say you're not doing an animation and you just want to do a nice pixel art drawing, you can just press Tab and mess with that. So you can really go in and with view, and here you can also come up here and click off. But once you learn, obviously, these shortcuts, it makes your workflow far, far better. But there's tons of different things here. Also, the one cool thing about Aseprite is that people who use it are basically evangelical about it. So you can find so many videos, tutorials on YouTube. That's how I learned to use it, is that I went and watched quick tutorials. Adam Yanis, who does Indie Tales channel on Twitch, he only does pixel art. And so he has like 4 years worth of videos of pixel art and animation and character design. And he gets really detailed, and he does an amazing job. Okay, so now before we get on to animation, I want to talk about exporting. So this scene, for example, I worked on it forever. It's got 55 frames and there's 2 layers. So if we come down here, some of this is self-evident. Like if I've got the eye and I click it off, then you'll only see the other one because I closed it. So that's how you can edit and mess around. If you press lock is amazing, because now I know that the background is exactly what I want it, so I can't accidentally mess with it. The 2 little cell buttons, I think this is called the cell button. That one is for when you lock or not, which I'll show you in a minute. But I've got all these tiles here, and you're like, well, how the heck do I turn this into how do I turn this into this to get this into Unity and get this animation working? I'll show you with the cube. So with this cube, it's the same thing. This is the sprite sheet already. Oh wait, I have to go back here to show you this. So what you do is you export. So this is the easiest way to show you. You can do the Control E, but I'm just going to click on Export Sprite Sheet. Let me make sure. I want Control Alt. Wait a minute. Let me make sure there's different ones that you can do. So you can export. Now, there's a couple things that I want to show you here. You can export this as a GIF, an animated GIF. So like if you have Screenshot Saturday, you want to show off your art to people, you want to show it to your team in Discord, but you don't want to have to lead them to Unity to go look at it or Aseprite, you could make an animated GIF. So you output file, you click on here and you'll pick where you want it to go, your file. But the key is resizing. So if this is going into your game and it's the exact size, you're not going to resize it. But I don't know if you've ever done this before. I've done this many times accidentally. You make a little 16 by 16 GIF, you export it, and then it's teeny tiny when you put it on Twitter, and then you try and enlarge it and it's all fuzzy because it's not meant to be seen large. So this is a miracle. You can come over here and resize it. And then I put it at 1000%. So then it'll be really big for my GIF and it'll look amazing. Okay. This is if I want to make it a GIF. But I'm not going to export it as a GIF because I want to export it as a sprite sheet. So here I'm going to come down to export sprite sheet and see how it just turned it into a sprite sheet for me. And now by rows, do you want to do a horizontal strip? Do you want to do columns? I usually like to do it in one big horizontal strip. Unity can handle a very long file. You can put it so that it'll double onto the next row, but I like to just do them in one long strip. Now, constraints, do you want any constraints? There's none. We have the open sprite sheet, it's selected, and then I'll say export. And then now here it exported it. And now I can save it as a PNG. And then I can go and save as, and I can save it as a PNG. And then I can make it my sprite sheet, save it as my sprite sheet, and then I'll have it to go import into Unity. Does anyone have any questions about that? Because that gets kind of tricky when you first are doing it. Or did I explain it okay?
My
Right.
question would be, is it when it's in Unity, I know for me, from my previous experience, you have to like highlight each frame to get the different animations. So when it's in Unity, how do you make that into an animation? But when you get there, you can get there.
I can get there. I can get there. I will get there. The other cool thing about this is that, well, so you just have to remember where you're going to export it. So this is the thing, and I've screwed this up because when you're hurrying or rushing or you're trying to get something done for a game jam, you're going to screw it up. So just know, if you save it as an Aseprite, so always save the master in the Aseprite, because then you can save your primary file and it's going to have all these images in it, and it's going to have all the layout, and it's going to keep it just like Photoshop, all the layers, everything select. If you save it to a PNG, then you're going to lose all the layers and all the different frames. It's just, it's going to be lost. So make sure you're always saving it as an Aseprite file. And then, so there's exporting and there's exporting sprite sheets. So exporting is when you export it like as a GIF, and then exporting sprite sheets is where it will automatically put it into one long sprite sheet for you. And then you can import sprite sheets. You can save as if you just want to save a GIF, or save a PNG because you're just working on an image. So that's really the coolest thing. Photoshop does not have this. You have to take each image out of your timeline animation and drag it into a new image. If they have a shortcut, I have never heard of it, and it's extremely tedious. So this saves, oops, I did not want to do that. This saves, this will save you hours of time if you're doing it some other barbaric way like Photoshop, because it's meant to be pixel art. Okay, so now let's go to animation tools. So I showed you a little bit of your tool and your timeline, but let's just go back to this little guy. I could clear this whole thing, but that's easiest. Let's go brush. Let's do this again. Let's just do an image here. Maybe this is a penguin. The size thing is sometimes annoying. They go in as just. Okay, so let's say this is a penguin. It kind of looks like a wonky penguin. There we go. So now say you've got this penguin. Let's add an eye. Okay, it looks more like a blob because I'm hurrying, but you've got this image and now say you want to start animating it. So down here, let's go look at these. This is called your timeline. This is where you're going to play your timeline. These, pretty obvious with the playing back and going to the next frame or whatever. And again, this is like showing you it or not. This is locking it. If I'm locking it, I can't draw on it or write on it or do anything at all. Now this little tricky thing is amazing, this cell thing, because sometimes you want cells to, like if you look at this one at the bottom, see how that's one long streak? That's just one image. And I created and I made it one long image with the cell, the locked cells. But up above is my animation. So the background stays the same, but then the front is the animation. Does that make sense? So you only have to draw it once. You don't have to like export it again and again and again. Now the cool thing with animation is seeing onion skins. So let me make a new frame. You can do Alt-N or you can just right click like I'm doing and making a new frame. You can right click on layer and make a new layer. So I made these all the same. So let's say for my background, I want to have this green. Why is this in the back? Why is this in the front? Hold on. Oh, because that's clicked. We don't want that clicked. Okay. Why is just that one clicked? That's weird. Okay. So now I'll put this. So we've got this background. And then now we're going to, they're all linked. Okay. So now this guy is separate. So let's duplicate him. Or let's draw him. So now I'm going to go to onion skin. So what's going to happen is when I draw, why aren't you drawing? Hold on. We'll just do this. Okay, so now when I draw, why isn't it drawing? There we go. And then I do the onion skins. Oh, I see what's going on. I don't think I have it. Sorry. I think I did some wonky messing with this and changing my, let's go to onion skin. The onion skin shows the animation before and after what you're working on. So let me see here, layer, frame, tags, frame properties, cancel, cell properties, nope. I'm not sure why this isn't working. We'll figure this out in a second because I am not sure. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So we want red, blue. We want them to be not so opaque. Okay. Now we'll go here and we'll do the onion skin layer. And it should, oh, see, it's doing it. It's just so subtle. That's why it was already doing it. I see. It's just so subtle. So now let's do, we're saying red, blue tint. So let's change it. Let's change this guy's color. Okay, there we go. So now when you see the onion skin, I'm sorry, it's because I was using the orange. I couldn't see it. It'll show you the frame before you and the frame after so that you can start to see what is on each frame. Does that make sense? Can you see that, what I'm doing, or is it totally confusing? I can start over too.
How are you seeing the before and the after at the same time? Or
that's the onion skin button. So let me go back down here.
Because there was one where you had both a red thing and a blue thing next to your little guy.
So yeah, one is the before and one is the after. Let me
Gotcha.
just start over because the way I did it, I got screwed up because I didn't realize my onion skins were blue and red and it was like the same literal color as what I was doing. Okay, so say you have this image of this thing. So we're gonna do new frame. So the new frame, and we're gonna unlock this. So the new frame, why is it locking it? The new frame is the exact same as the other one. So now though, we're going to take this guy, I'm just going to do this simply and use my move tool and I'm going to move him up. So if I come over here, oh shoot, why are they locked? I don't know why they're showing they're locked. Look at this. Unlink, there we go. So if I come here and I put him back down, okay, perfect. Now it's working. Okay, so my first layer, he's down low. Because I have the onion skin selected, it shows me the next image. So the red is the ones before, and the purple is the one after. So now I'm gonna make another, I'm gonna duplicate this cell, and then I'm gonna use my V tool, and I'm gonna move it up even more. So now if I go back to the middle, it's gonna go 3 images, because it's gonna show the first one that's red onion skin, it's going to show me the one I'm on, and then it's going to show the third one that's purple. So now when I play it, we'll turn the onion skin off. And when I play it, he hops up and down. Does that make sense now, how the onion skin works?
Yep, totally.
So it's really nice. It's just like when animators have a light table and they have the drawing underneath, so you can see it, so that you can shade it. So now say I'm ready to move this guy up, and I'm going to do a new empty frame. That's showing me my last frame. So now I can come in with my brush and I can be like, well, actually, I want him up here now, and I'm going to do this, you know, so you can start really messing with it and detailing it. But the really cool thing is that you can just duplicate. So if I say new frame, it's automatically going to copy it. If I say new frame empty, then it won't copy it. So then this one, I can use my V tool and I can move it up even more. And now I'll turn the onion skin off. And now when I play, you can see it goes up a lot. So it's just nice to turn on the onion skin and mess with it. And this is the other great reason why you have the preview over here, because it doesn't show the onion skin. So see how I have the onion skin on here, but it doesn't here. So if you're confused, you can look over here to see. So now it'll jump up and down, but my little preview will show exactly what it looks like, because the onion skin isn't real. It's not in your drawing. It's just showing you the ghosts so you know where your other images are. Does that make sense? That was a little confusing how I did that.
It's like the tracing paper that I see in like Disney behind the scene videos, right?
100%. How they flip through it. It's like
Okay.
how they have they draw on the tissue paper drawing, you know, and then they draw Bambi a little bit, and then they draw Bambi a little more.
That's really cool.
That's exactly what it is. And especially if you're doing long arcs, or if you have a character that's slamming their sword down or something, you really need that onion skin to like see where that arc of the sword's going and draw that. So that's really cool. So the important thing though, is you can go to timeline settings, which is this little bar with the 3 adjustable things on it. That's going to give you your opacity of these guys, and then the opacity step. So if you want to have 2 in each direction, you can drag that and show it 2 in each direction. You know, you can really control and change and do all of this. Another thing, just to let you know, like when you're in this in this settings thing down here, you can change where this goes. You can put it on the left, you can put it on the right. Some people have grown up using Photoshop and they only want it on the right so they can see all the layers. I actually love that it's on the bottom, because to me it's really intuitive, because you're kind of looking in the same space. You're just going up and down. Your brain doesn't have to go all the way other to the side. And a lot of us have giant monitors now, and so it's a lot of physical work to move your head to go look on the right of your big monitor instead of just going up and down. So that is like just a nice tool. So it gets confusing because you have all these adjustments down here, and then you can come up and adjust here. I mean, the one thing with this, when I first started learning it, is I just messed with every single button, because you want to be able to just make sure you understand it. And I also wrote down a cheat sheet of all of the shortcuts, so then I could look at it. And then after a while, it gets really intuitive and you start to memorize it and stuff. So now say I've got this really ugly jumping penguin. And let's just go ahead and import this to Unity. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go File. I'm going to do Export Sprite Sheet. I want to do a horizontal strip. And this is exactly how I want to do it. So I'm going to do Export. But let me actually make sure where did I save it? Okay, so I exported it. So it's here on a new screen. That's what happened. I get confused every time I do this. Now it's on a new screen. Now I'm going to save as, and I'm going to save it as a PNG because I'm going to import it into Unity. I'm going to say, I'm going to call it Ugly Penguin Sprite Sheet. And usually with the programmers I work with, I'll get even more complicated. I'll do Ugly Penguin Sprite Sheet underscore jump, or we'll just call this the idle underscore 4 frames. So I can give them as much info as possible so they know that it has to be cut into 4 frames. They're not going to have to go in there and count the pixels and try and figure out what you, the artist, are trying to do. Because if you do pixel art and you're not the programmer, usually you're going to put it in a folder. You might upload it to Unity, but a lot of times the programmers will be uploading it to Unity because it's just, you know, they're working and you put the images in there. So I've got it in here. Oops, shoot. Dang it. I just did that wrong. So we're going to do ugly penguin. I'm just going to say ugly penguin sprite sheet. And then also it's really good to number them. This is a good practice. Your programmers will get very mad at you. You'll find out they'll get frustrated. So if you just put ugly penguin sprite sheet and then the next day you do ugly penguin sprite sheet new, and then you'll do ugly sprite sheet penguin new because you had to do a tweak or change to it. So just do ugly penguin sprite sheet 1.1 and then the next one's 1.2. So it's really easy for everyone to keep track of it. That's just kind of how working, like when you work by yourself, it's a lot easier, but when you're working with a team, you have to start collaborating and having tools that you all share and that. So any questions on this before I go jump into Unity to show you how to import it into Unity? Anyone?
All good here.
Forward.
Okay. One quick thing before, in case we don't come back and we don't have time. One thing I want to show you is a really cool thing is you can add tags. So on this guy, it's got his idle, it's got the walk, and it's got the attack all on the same sprite sheet. So when you export it, it's one sprite sheet and you can like divide it up to yourself. So say you've got the idle down pat and you're just working on the walk. So that's how you can come in here. You can right click, you can say new tag, you can name the tags, rename the tags, say which you want. It's just a really handy way of keeping track of your work, because when you start doing giant character sprites for a game, you might have 60 in there and there's attack, there's idle, there's fireball attack, there's sword attack or whatever. And instead of having to go import every single one of those into Unity, that'll take forever. You can put it on a sprite sheet and then it'll divide it up for you. It's really amazing.
That is an awesome feature.
Yeah. Again, Photoshop doesn't have this because they're not making this to do pixel art. So this is what's the coolest thing about Aseprite, just these few little things that you can come in. Also, you can move frames. I just want to tell you this one thing. It seems obvious, but it is so annoying and frustrating. So if you click on something, it kind of gets this red. See how it's red with this yellow highlight? Say I want to switch these two positions. You actually have to drag the yellow frame and move it over. If you just grab the middle and move it, it'll actually just select both frames. So just a hint, it can be very frustrating. Or say you have several layers, and the same thing, you have to click on the yellow until you get the arrow, and then you can drag it up. It's really easy to click on it and then it won't move because you just clicked on the middle. That's the one fussiest thing here that I've discovered about Aseprite, is it's just hard to move. You've got to just totally line your cursor perfectly up with the yellow to get that highlighted move symbol so that you can move it. Because I screw that up all the time because I'm just rushing. Okay, so now I want to go to Unity. Let's see. Sample, I want sample scene. Can you guys see that now?
Your
Yeah,
Unity-
working.
You're seeing Unity? Okay, great. Okay, so hopefully I'm sure you're all getting familiar with Unity. I've got my art assets here. I'm in my sample scene. I am going to import a new asset. So when you're in assets, you can right click on assets. I can go to the art folder and right click. I'm going to go one up to the assets and I right click, and then I get this whole folder here, and I'm going to import a new asset. So I'm going to go here to my cube art. No, I don't want GitHub because that is something else. I want to go to Game Jams, and I want to go to low res jam, and I'm going to go to published art. So this is how we had it all organized. Tile sets, pickups, opening scenes, obsolete art, dungeon dressing, characters. I go to characters. I'm going to go to cube, and there's my ugly penguin sprite sheet. Okay, so I'm going to select that and I'm going to import it. So there's a few things you have to do. If you just leave it like this, you're just going to have, it's just importing it as one image. You have to remember Unity is dumb. It doesn't know what you want. It doesn't know what your intention is. So now I'm going to come in. I'm going to cover this very quickly because this is like a whole class in itself, but I just want to give you a feel that it's really not difficult. You just have to learn a few things, write it down, do it, and then you'll get used to it. There's lots of things going on here. You're importing it as a sprite, 2D sprite. Sprite mode is multiple because we are going to divide this into 4. Pixels per unit is 64 because these are 64 by 64. That was my original square. So if I do 100, it's going to screw up the size relative to everything else. So that is incredibly important. Pixels per unit can like make or break you. Oftentimes, if you import something into Unity and it's huge and it's the wrong size, immediately just go look at your pixels per unit because that's what's going on. The other thing you need to know is filter mode. You go to point and then compression none. So there's 4 things you have to deal with there, and it gets kind of annoying, but you'll get used to it, and you press apply, but you're not done. Then you go to sprite editor. Okay, now this is where the magic happens. Now you have this sprite image and we're going to slice it. You can do automatic, but if I already know there's 64 by 64, I'm going to pick by cell count because I know that it's 1 row and I know that it's evenly divided into 4 columns. So when I say slice, it magically just separates them for me. And then I press apply. And now it's separated them. So now when you close this and you come over here, now it's got this little arrow and it's separated them out. And if you want to know the real magic, then you can just drag it up into your scene and it's going to automatically want to save it. And I'm going to save it as ugly penguin anim. And then now when I press play, it actually should already be working. Your animation will automatically start working. So it's very cool. Now you can actually stop it. You can come in. Here's your ugly penguin animation. You click on it and you get your animation button. And now you can start messing with how long you want it to go, things like that. You can record it. You can actually come and say, this image, I want to move. Again, this is getting really complicated. Oh, it won't let me do it for some reason. Oh, there we go. Now I'm moved and I can move it way over here. So you can actually start you have to record it and then you move it. That's what I forgot to do. Let's just do something radical and then unrecord. And then now it'll move. So like a lot of times I can just give an asset to a programmer and then they can be like, oh, I'll make it animate. And then they'll go in and animate. And I just gave them like the penguin and they can do stuff. But if you have to have really complicated things like arms moving and weapons or things like that, then you need to do it in Aseprite, get it exactly the way you want to look. You can import it in, but here you can add to it. You can start dragging how long the animation is. You're like, oh, I want it 0.05 seconds long. There's so many different things. You can add events just to show you, like clicking on this, add keyframe, add events. I had a little demo I made where it was a garbage pickup game on the beach with plastic bottles. And every time this digital wave would wash in, I would have bottles appear underneath it so that when the wave went down, the bottles would all have been generated there. And that was when I added an event. So there's really amazing, cool things you can do in Unity. So this is just not even scratching the surface. This is giving you the tiniest little glimpse. But then you can also, so I saved it. So now it's got this weird wonky animation. But then also when you open up your animation window, your animator, then it always shows it weird. Oh, here it is. This is it. Then you can start coming in and this gets really complicated and the programmers usually deal with this, or you might work in tandem with the programmer, or maybe you are the programmer. But here's when your entry is. You can say they're always in idle. You can say, or they come in, they go to idle. And then if you use the left mouse button, it's going to go to this animation. And then you can start programming really cool stuff to control it. Again, that's a whole other thing, but just to show you just a little glimpse of what you can start to do in Unity. Any other questions at all? The class, I think, was supposed to be 45 minutes, so we're over 45 minutes. So
if you ever want to do a follow-up covering this menu, just looking at this melted my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd be interested.
Oh, and then, I mean, I didn't even get into tile sets because I can start showing you just really quickly.
Melt my brain.
Yeah, here I'll melt your brain. I can come in here. Let me go. Where is it? I can't, game. Why can't I remember the word game jam? So like, here we go. Low res jam and then published art. My brain starts to hurt too. Okay, tile sets. So I did a ton of tile sets for this game and this dungeon, and then you can start moving. Let me get rid of that. So I brought in this tile set, and again, you can import these, you can cut them up into little tiles, but then instead of saving them as an animation, you save them as a tile set. So you come over here and you create, oh, not create empty, sorry. You create 2D object tile map, and you want rectangular, maybe you want hexagonal, maybe you want isometric, totally depends on your game. So I'll say rectangular, and then you can open your tile palette and see here's one that I've already imported in. And then you can start grabbing these and drawing with them. This is the ugly part. Let me grab like that. But I mean, you can come in and you can be like, okay, here's my dungeon. There's a doorway. I'll fix that. I'll just grab this. I can come in and paint tons of tile sets. And then it's on a whole other layer than your art. And so there's just really cool things that you could do with tile set. But again, I did this on this little cube. It's all on this 16 by 16, or no, this is 8 by 8. And I just did this on Aseprite and made these tile sheets, and then you can come in and you can test them on there and see what they're going to look like. And then it's just really easy to fill in, and they snap to the grid. You don't have to do any fussing. It's just really amazing how they both work in tandem so well. And then I could go to my penguin. Oh, I need to close this. That's the one annoying thing. You have to make sure you close it. I go to my penguin, and then I can come up here and move my penguin, and then now he's on it, so that when you play, he'll start moving around. Oh, I didn't. It's showing it on a weird thing, I think, because I didn't line it up correctly. But the camera's in the wrong spot. But anyways, that gives you a little hint of what the work is. But it's like once you get really fast, then you can just whip out these tile sets. You can like start to make your characters. You can start to animate them. It's really, let's go back to that. It's really, you know, up to your imagination, like how detailed you want to get and what you want to do. But I mean, like this opening scene, you know, really wasn't that crazy because it looks like it's so complicated. But when I did it, it was like once I did the background, you know, that was set. So then I'm just messing with the stuff on front. So it goes along pretty quickly once you get used to the tools. And again, using the shortcuts is your best friend, and you will work so much faster. Like a professional, if you've got to do this for 6 to 8 hours a day, there's no way you can work without using the shortcuts, because again, you will be wasting an hour of your time to stumble through it. So you'll get used to it. Okay, cool. Any other questions? And if you come up with a question or you need help or you ask me, you know, I can always help. But I recommend getting Aseprite. It's really affordable. And again, they really focus on making games. And even if you don't use it a lot for games, you might find that you just can use it for little assets, or you can experiment with it, or, you know, even if you're not using it for the game that you're making in this class, it's just a really powerful tool. You can also use it to make giant scrolling backgrounds. You know, you can make one image and then do a practice tile set to see what it looks like if you have a platformer with a giant scrolling background that's not little tiles. You know, like Mario with the clouds in the background or whatever, that's like a bigger tile that then repeats itself. And then the platforms are another layer that are put on, and then the characters are another layer, and then the power-ups are a whole other layer. So it only gets more complicated, I'll say that. But once you start to use these tools and you get used to them, then it just gets easier and easier and easier.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Again, just shoot me a message if you have any questions, or if we need a part 2 in any way. We can always do it.
Thank you, Jennevieve. Great.
You're welcome. I don't know if David's around, but we're done, David.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Thanks, everybody. I will stop recording.
Great. Thanks.